So we had this nomination, and I looked at it, and I looked over Ed Chen's background, and I found a very attractive background, that he was from an immigrant family, as Judge Ware said, was educated at the University of California, received his law degree there, and had a very interesting history. And I began to look at some of the letters that had come in for him, and I noticed there was widespread bipartisan support for him, including Thomas Mizuko, the president of the San Francisco Police Commission, and a lifelong Republican, and someone sitting behind me to my right by the name of Lowell Jensen, who was an appointee of President Reagan's, praised Judge Chen, and I quote, as conscientious, careful, and impartial. The San Francisco Bar Association rated him exceptionally well qualified, its highest rating. Judge Chen was a magistrate judge for, I guess, close to 11 years. He had 350 published opinions. Not one of them has ever been criticized by anybody. And there was nothing, really, other than the fact at one time he was part of a defense team well, I guess it wasn't a defense team, it was a plaintiff's team, in the case of Korematsu versus the United States. I was amazed at how some people went out of their way to distort and contrive. The approval by the Senate was, I believe, 56 to 42. And I really regret that, because it should have been 100 to 0. But as many of you might have noticed, we're in very controversial days, and they're very hard days, and they're very different from when I went to the Senate 18 years ago, when a nominee of the quality and caliber of Ed Chen would have just sped through in a matter of a few months. And I think Judge Ware gave you a few examples of where that happened. Well, those are not the days today. And I must tell you, I yearn for those days again, when we can really work across the aisle, when we can concentrate on the problems of this great nation, which are enormous and need people of goodwill to come together, bring people together, and solve problems that are very serious. So I am delighted to be here. It's a long journey, and you have a totally worthwhile new federal judge.
I met the second Ed Chen in 1973 at UC Berkeley. I was an instructor and he was a student in my class, Asian Americans in the law. And initially I wasn't impressed with his intelligence or character. I thought he was just taking my class as an opportunity to get an easy A-. And so when he wrote his first paper and I read it, it was brilliant. So I wondered naturally, who wrote this? And I questioned him about it. And after a few times, he became very indignant. And it was only after a while that I realized this guy's a pretty sharp guy. You know, especially when I found out he was dating a former student of mine who's also very smart, very intelligent, personable, involved in the Asian Pacific Islander community, whose name is Janet Lee. And of course now Janet Lee Chen. In fact, I think she wrote those papers. But I realized that he was gifted, though, when he graduated Phi Beta Kappa from UC Berkeley and Order of the Coifet Bolt Hall, and went on to a distinguished clerkship career with some great judges, Judge Renfrew, Judge Browning, extern for legendary Justice Matthew Tobriner of the California Supreme Court, and then he went to the Breyer firm. And then his career took a left-hand turn. He went to the American Civil Liberties Union to become a staff attorney. And in fact, when he applied to the ACLU, he asked me for a recommendation. And so I knew Dorothy Ehrlich, and I asked Dorothy, I told Dorothy, this is a spectacular talent, and he got hired. But from this vast outpouring of support, one indispensable actor of this drama emerges clearly. The one who recommended him initially, and two more times, when his candidacy seemed very bleak, the person who time and time again stood up, publicly, privately, lobbied, fought for him, and never gave up the chance to have her nominee become a United States District Court judge. And of course, that's Senator Dianne Feinstein, and I think we should publicly acknowledge her now because she has never claimed credit. You know, balance is never achieved by yourself or alone. He has friends from his childhood days in Oakland here. Colleagues and friends that he had made along the way are here. And most of all, he's been buoyed and ballasted by a wife who is his kindred spirit, a generous soul, and a wonderful equal partner in a marriage of over 30 years. And he also has a sweet daughter and a son who they love dearly and are loved back dearly as well. So they're here today, and I'm happy for them. So congratulations, Judge Ed Chen. We appreciate all you have done as a lawyer, as a magistrate, as a contributing member of diverse communities. You have made us all proud with your perseverance, humanity, equanimity, and commitment to justice. And we know you will be as good a judge as you were a father, a friend, a father, a lawyer, a son, a husband, and a friend. Welcome.
This was a lengthy process, as we know, over 2 years and really over 3 years when you count the days of interviews and vetting and so forth and so on. So this process went on, and I can't tell you whether it was at the time of his third renomination or fourth renomination that I walked into his chambers. He was sitting there. And by the way, at this point, if I make a religious reference, I will, which is, it was like sitting Shiva for 2 years. I mean, it was this power of sort of sadness, not with him, but with all of us. You know, and we were going by to pay our condolences to Ed that he now has to be renominated a fourth time. And I said to him, and this is absolutely the truth, I said to him, you know, Ed, I said, you don't have to do this. You can withdraw from consideration. You've now, and I think it was after 3, but before tour, you simply call the senator, thank her for her support, and ask that your name be withdrawn. I said, because you really have suffered enough by this, and these are events that are out of your control, and it's not about you. And Ed looked at me and said, I know it's not about me, and that's why I have to do it. It's about a principle. And that principle is, as was remarked earlier, the principle that an individual can go and devote his or her career to public interest law and not foreclose the possibility that they will serve as an Article 3 judge. He believed that if he simply withdrew, the message would be throughout the country that unless you stay in that high-powered law firm or work in a particular order or don't handle anything of controversy or keep your head down for 15 or 20 years, you can't serve as a judge. He thought that was wrong. And so he was going to stay and see the course. He said, let me be voted up or let me be voted down. It's important as a matter of principle. So then who really is responsible? I think the person who is really responsible is Ed Chen himself. It's his character. It's his devotion to a principle, not to himself, not to a cause, but to a principle. Ed, it is wonderful having you as our colleague. You add luster to our entire court. It's extraordinary. Your appointment and confirmation is extraordinarily important for this nation, and I welcome you as one of our colleagues.